Jake Malone walked slowly through the thick alien jungle, his boots sinking into soft blue moss. The air was warm and heavy, filled with strange buzzing sounds. His scanner beeped softly, searching for rare minerals. It was just another boring Survey Joe bore, so he thought. He had landed on planet Tresson 2 days ago. The job was simple: explore, scan, collect samples, and leave. He expected old rocks and weird bugs, but not this. A sound stopped him. It was not a bird, not a beast, and not wind. It was a soft, broken cry. He froze. It was faint, like someone whispering in pain. He turned off his scanner and listened again. The jungle grew quiet. The cry came again closer. Now, it wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It was something else. Sad. Lonely Jake followed the sound. His heart beat faster as vines brushed against his shoulders. The cry was leading him deeper away from safety, away from his shuttle. He knew it was stupid, but he couldn't stop. Something inside him said this wasn't just a sound. It was a call. Then he saw it. Half buried in the moss was a crashed ship. Its metal was old and burned. One wing was torn off, and deep claw marks were on the sides. It looked like it had been attacked, not just crashed. Smoke no longer rose. It had been there for a while. Jake climbed through a broken panel and entered the dark wreck. Inside, the air was cold and still. Light flickered from cracked walls. He moved slowly, flashlight shaking slightly in his hand. Then he found them, eggs, ore. At least, what was left of them. He stared in shock. In the center of the room were 4 egg-shaped pods tall, smooth and glowing faintly. But 3 were shattered. Cracks ran across the floor. Sticky, dark blue liquid had dried around the edges. One of the eggs still pulsed weakly with light, but it was empty. The 4th egg was missing. Jake stepped closer. His heart felt heavy. He didn't know why this was not a storage room. It was a nursery, a nest. He saw small carvings on the walls, alien symbols. Next to them were drawings of hands holding smaller ones. A mother's hands. Suddenly, the sound came again. Jake turned sharply, pointing his flashlight. But no one was there. He looked back at the nest and slowly sat down. He took off his helmet. The air smelled like ash and flowers. He whispered, "What happened here?" A single tear fell down his cheek. He didn't even know why. Far above, hidden in the trees. She watched. Her name was Sarai. She was the mother. Weak, wounded, watching she had hidden when the ship crashed. She had fought the raiders who took her eggs. She had lost everything. And now, a humane stranger was in her home. She expected him to steal, to destroy, to laugh. But he didn't. She saw him touch the nest gently. She saw his face break in. Sadness, and for a moment, she didn't feel alone. She gripped the branch with shaking fingers, her body weak from hunger. She had not eaten in days, but she couldn't move. She had to watch, just in case he was one of them. She had nothing left to give, except the truth. One egg was still out there, taken, and now, one human might be her only chance. Back inside the wreck, Jake stood up. He noticed something strange. A small set of tracks, tiny, clawed feet led away from the wreckage, and next to them, boot prints. Not his. Someone else had been here recently, and they had taken something. Jake looked back at the empty nest. He clenched his jaw. He didn't know who the mother was. He didn't know what kind of creature had lost her babies. But he knew one thing: no one should have to cry like that. Not human, not alien. He picked up his scanner again, but this time he wasn't looking for minerals. He was looking for a thief, or maybe a way to return something stolen. Sarai gripped the thick tree branch with her long, clawed fingers. Her skin was pale blue, almost silver in the moonlight. Her breathing was shallow. Pain pulsed through her side where her ribs had cracked days ago. Still, she did not move. She was watching him. The human, the one who had found her ship. Her broken nest, the one who had not stolen. That surprised her. Humans were loud, greedy, rough. That's what her people had said. That's what the stories warned. And yet, this one was different. He had touched the broken nest with care. He had not taken anything. He had whispered words, soft, full of sadnesses, if her pain was his own. Why? She narrowed her eyes. Jake had followed the tracks. He was now walking carefully, watching the ground. He didn't know she was above him, moving branch by branch. Silently like a shadow, she had done this before, hunted raiders, chased thieves, but this time she wasn't hunting him. She was testing him. Flashback just 4 days ago. Sky had been on fire. The raiders came without warning, metal ships with black wings. They shot her vessel out of the sky before it could land. She had just entered orbit, carrying her precious clutch of 4 eggs, 4 lives, 4 futures. The crash was brutal. She barely survived. She had hidden the nest deep in the wreck, sealed it, and crawled out to fight. She had killed 2 of them. The others got away with 1 of her eggs. She screamed until her throat bled, but it didn't bring them back. Since then, she'd stayed near the wreck, hoping the others would return, hoping she could get the last egg back, but no one came. Until this human, back in the present, Sarai crept along a thick branch overhead. Jake had found more tracks. He knelt beside a patch of dirt, examining it. His scanner beeped softly. Sarai tilted her head. She didn't understand the machine, but she understood his eyes. He was searching for something, for someone, not for money, not for treasure, but for her child. Her heart thumped. Could it be? Jake stood and wiped sweat from his brows. The sun was climbing higher, burning through the mist. He looked around. Whoever took it, he muttered. They didn't get far. He stepped forward and paused. He felt something. Not a sound, not a shadow, but a feeling. Like eyes watching him. He turned slowly. Nothing, only trees, leaves, and the thick silence of the jungle. But he didn't move. Whoever you are, he said out loud, I'm not here to hurt you. His voice was calm, honest. I saw the ship. I saw the broken nest. I don't know who you are, but I know what it means to lose something. He paused. Serai, I froze. Her sharp ears caught every word. Her breath hitched. Jake placed his scanner on the ground and raised his empty hands. If you're out there, you're the mother, I'll help you. He looked up at the trees. I promise. Sarai watched him for a long moment. Her heart beat like a drum. Her body trembled not from fear, but from something deeper. Could she trust him? Was it a trick? She couldn't decide, but her instincts whispered something ancient, something real. He means it, slowly, silently. She climbed down. Jake heard a rustle. Behind him, he turned and froze. There she stood, tall, thin, wounded. Her silver blue skin glowed softly in the light. Her eyes were wide, glowing with green fire. Her long hair hung in tangled braids, and in her arms she held a small carving of an egg. Her last memory of the one they stole. Neither of them spoke, not at first. Jake took a small step forward. Sarai growled low. He stopped, then he knelt down, slowly, and placed his hand on the ground. I'm Jake, he said softly. Sarai blinked. I don't know your name, he continued, but I know why you're hurting. She stared at him. Her lips moved. Sarai, she whispered. Her voice was dry, broken, unused. Jake smiled gently. Sci-Fi, he repeated. I'll help you get your child back. A long silence passed between them. Then, she stepped forward and dropped the carving into his hands. It was a gift, a sign she would trust him. For now, Jake stood still, holding the carved egg in his hands. It felt warm, maybe from Sci-Fi's touch, or maybe something deeper. He didn't know what kind of alien she truly was, or how powerful, but in that moment, she looked like any mother would. Scared, hurt, but full of fire. Sci-Fi stood beside him now. She was still cautious, still tense, but something had changed. Trust had started to grow. Not much. Just enough to move forward. She pointed to the dirt trail ahead. Boot prints, claw marks, strange circular grooves that looked like some kind of floating cart had passed through. Jake nodded. Let's find your egg. The jungle was thicker here. Sci-Fi walked lightly, barely making a sound. Jake tried to keep up, pushing branches aside and watching his step. Every now and then, she would stop, kneel, and sniff the air, or touch a leaf. She was tracking, not with a machine, but with memory and instinct. They moved fast, Jake said. Sci-Fi nodded. Hunters from the Black Moons. Raiders, Jake asked. She looked at him. Worse, traitors. He frowned. You mean, they're planning to sell the egg? Her eyes narrowed. Yes. Jake clenched his fists. Then we better move fast. They followed the trail through a narrow path where the trees arched above like a tunnel. Broken vines dangled like ropes. Suddenly, Sci-Fi raised her hand and stopped Jake. She crouched low, sniffed the air again, then motioned for him to follow quietly. He obeyed. They moved to a rocky ledge and looked down. Below them was an old camp abandoned, half-burnt. Black crates lay scattered. A broken cooking unit sparked weakly in the corner. Something terrible had happened here. Sci-Fi jumped down first. Jake followed. There were signs of a struggle. Blaster burns on trees. Blood stains, some red, some blue. One tent had been torn open like a wild beast had rushed through. But no bodies. Jake knelt beside a crate. It was labeled in a strange alien language, but he recognized the tech. Smugglers, pirates, same type he'd seen on other frontier planets. He opened the lid. Inside was nothing but hay and thermal cloth. An egg cradle. It had once held something round, delicate and alive. He looked up at Sci-Fi. Her face was blank, but her hands were shaking. They were here, she said quietly. They kept the egg warm. They wanted it alive. Jake stood. Then they haven't sold it yet. They're still moving. He scanned the area with his device. One blip pinged from nearby, small signal coming from under a pile of junk. He rushed to it and pulled out a broken comms panel. Still active. Still blinking. A tracker jot. Jake tapped his wrist and synced the tracker to his scanner. There. Heading northeast, he said. About 10 kilometers. But they've stopped moving. Sci-Fi looked toward the dark sky. The sun was setting. Night here is dangerous, she warned. Beasts hunt at dusk. Jake checked his rifle. We don't have time to wait. Your child is out there. Sci-Fi stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. They moved. The jungle changed at night. Colors turned darker. The leaves glowed faintly. Strange shadows moved between the trees. And the sounds became deeper. Hungrier, they pressed on. Sci-Fi moved like a ghost, guiding them through narrow paths. Jake followed close, eyes on the scanner. Then, suddenly static. The signal blinked out. Jake stopped. No, no, no. They turned it off. He hit the screen again. Still nothing. But then Sci-Fi sniffed the air. I can still feel it. Jake. Blinked, feel it. She closed her eyes. My blood, my energy. The egg is mine. I will always feel it. She pointed toward a small hill in the distance. There. Jake trusted her. They moved quickly and quietly. The hill was covered in sharp stones. But something had been built on top a small landing pad and a half-hidden ship. A trader's skiff. Lights were on inside. They were close. Jake raised his rifle. Sci-Fi pulled a curved blade from her side. They exchanged a glance. No words, just purpose. Jake moved first, creeping toward the ship's hatch. He pressed against the side, listening voices inside. 2, maybe 3. Alien speech, guttural and fast. Jake didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. Careless. They thought they were safe. He turned to Sci-Fi and whispered, "We go in quiet." She nodded. Together, they slipped inside. Inside the dark trader ship. The air smelled like burnt metal and old chemicals. Jake stepped lightly, his rifle raised. Sci-Fi moved beside him, quiet like wind. Her curved blade shining softly in the blue light. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The sound of boots and alien voices echoed from the cargo hold ahead. Jake counted the footsteps. 3. Maybe more. They were close to the egg. He could feel it. Sci-Fi stopped suddenly and raised her hand. She pointed to a shadowed corner. Jake followed her eyes and spotted a security drone on the ceiling, blinking red. One wrong move, one loud sound, and it would alert the whole crew. Jake tapped Sci-Fi's shoulder and whispered, "Let me handle it." He crouched, aimed his rifle, and fired a single silent shot. The drone sparked and dropped like a rock. No alarm. They moved forward. The hallway ended in a wide metal room. Boxes were stacked high. Tools, weapons, and strange alien tech cluttered the space. In the center stood a cradle, cold metal and glowing blue padding dot. Inside it was the egg, still whole, still pulsing with light. Jake felt a strange heat in his chest, relief, hope, but then voices shouted. Boots slammed. One of the raiders had seen them. "Get down." Jake yelled. Blaster fire cracked through the air. Jake rolled behind a crate, returning fire. Sci-Fi leaped forward, spinning with her blade. She moved like liquid fast, sharp, deadly. One alien raider charged her with a metal spear. Too slow, she ducked, slashed, and the spear hit the wall. Sparks flew. Jake took out another raider with a clean shot. The last one ran, but Sci-Fi was faster. She jumped from a stack of crates and knocked him down hard. Silence returned. Only their heavy breathing remained. The egg still glowed. Sci-Fi dropped to her knees beside it. Her hand trembled as she touched the shell. It was warm. Still alive. Still safe. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in days, she breathed without pain. Jake stood back and gave her space. He looked around, checking for more threats, but something felt wrong. Too easy. Sci-Fi, he said slowly, why would traders just leave the egg here with only a few guards? She looked up at him. A soft rumble came from above. Then another. Jake's eyes widened. They weren't guarding the egg, he said. They were guarding us. The ceiling exploded. A huge alien beast dropped through the opening, thick arms. Sharp teeth, red glowing eyes. Its body was covered in armor plates. It landed between them with a roar. A trap. Jake fired, but the blaster bolts bounced off the armor. The beast swung its tail, sending crates flying. Sci-Fi grabbed the egg and rolled behind cover. Run, she shouted. Jake fired again, aiming for the beast's eyes. It howled and charged. Jake jumped aside just in time. The monster smashed through the wall like paper. Pipes burst. Steam filled the air. Sci-Fi tossed the egg cradle toward Jake. He caught it and ran for the rear hatch. Sci-Fi followed, limping slightly. The beast roared and chased them through the burning ship. They burst into the jungle. Jake kept running, clutching the egg close to his chest. Behind them, the beast broke through the hull, roaring into the sky. "Tree line," Sarai shouted. They raced into the thick forest. Branches slapped Jake's face. Thorns tore at his jacket. But he didn't stop. The egg was more important than his pain. Sarai turned sharply and threw a small device toward the beast. It flashed blinding white light and a loud pop. The creature screamed, stunned for a moment. It was just enough time. They reached a clearing with giant tree roots forming a natural wall. "Climb," Jake said. Sarai helped him up, then jumped after him. The beast charged through the trees, but the thick roots slowed it down. They climbed higher up into the trees. The beast couldn't follow. It roared in frustration below. Then finally, silence, high. In the branches, Jake and Sarai rested. The stars blinked through the leaves. The air was cool and still. Jake laid the egg gently between them. Sarai leaned against the tree trunk, breathing hard. Her hand reached toward Himslow. Hesitant, Jake took it. No words, just understanding. The morning sun rose over the trees, but Jake and Sarai didn't feel warm. They were tired, dirty, wounded. But the egg was safe. Jake stared at it as it rested in his arms, pulsing softly with a warm light. It was beautiful, fragile, full of life. And someone had tried to sell it like a thing. Sarai sat across from him, sharpening her blade. Her eyes were sharper than ever, now not with fear, but with purpose. "We're not done," she said quietly. "One egg is safe, but the others, ... Jake nodded. "There's still one more chance. We track the buyer. We end this." Jake had connected the stolen ship's logs to his wrist scanner. The data showed one name. The vault market, it wasn't a place. It was a secret, hidden under the mountains of Trezenfor. The vault was a black market known only to smugglers and criminals. Buyers came from far systems. Sellers brought things even warlords wouldn't touch. And somewhere inside, one of Sarai's stolen eggs had been traded away. Now they had to go in. The entrance was buried under stone cliffs and glowing moss. The guards at the door didn't ask names-only weapons. Jake gave up his rifle. Sarai hid her blade under her cloak. They passed through heavy metal doors into a wide underground city. It was like stepping into another world. Strange lights floated in the air. Thick smoke filled the halls. Creatures from 10 different species walked by, some in armor, some in robes, others carrying cages, boxes, and strange machines. Vendors shouted in alien languages, fresh blood meal, rare crystal bones, captured moon beasts half price. Jake's stomach twisted. Sarai walked ahead, calm, quiet. But Jake knew her hands were ready to kill. They found the trader in a side room. He sat behind a table stacked with cages. Inside one cage was a baby creature, small, shaking, with glowing eyes. Another held some kind of living plant. Jake hated this place. The trader looked up. He had thin skin like paper and red lights for eyes. "You buying or selling?" he asked. In a dry voice, Jake kept his voice low. "I heard you recently got something rare. An egg from a crashed ship." The trader didn't react. "You heard wrong." Sarai stepped forward. Her voice cut the air like ice. "We know you sold it. We want to know who bought it." The trader raised an eyebrow. "And why would I tell you that?" Jake opened his palm. Inside, it was his emergency beacon, his only way off the planet. "I'll trade this," he said. "One name, one buyer." The trader leaned closer. He scanned the beacon. His eyes blinked with interest. "That is valuable," he whispered. "Hesty, then take it, and give us the truth." The trader smiled. He took the beacon. "Your egg was sold to a collector," he said. "To private buyer. Rich, dangerous, lives in the deep sector. No questions asked. Paid triple price to get it early." Jake's jaw tightened. "Name, Carl Zeth," the trader said. "The bone." "Collector." Cerie's body went still. "I know that name," she said. "He hunts living trophies." Jake looked at her. "Then we stop him." As they turned to leave, the trader whispered something into a small device. Behind them, 2 large guards stepped into the hall, silent, armored, blocking the exit. Sci-Fi saw them first. "Betrayal," she growled. Jake turned. Too late. The guards lunged. Jake dropped low, sweeping one guard's leg. Her hidden blade flashing. The second guard roared and charged. She met him with a hard strike to the throat. Jake pulled a stun rod from a guard's belt and jabbed it into the first one's back. Electric shock. The guard fell. The second one dropped to his knees. Sci-Fi pressed her blade to his neck. "You sold a mother's child," she said in a low voice. "You deserve worse." The guard trembled. Jake pulled Sci-Fi back. "Not here. We've got what we need." She hesitated, then stepped away. They ran from the market, slipping into the smoke, vanishing through the side tunnels. Outside, the air felt cleaner. The stars above shined brighter. Jake looked at Sci-Fi. "Carl Zeth, is he as bad as they say?" She nodded. "Worse. He collects life but never lets it grow. He sees beauty in cages." Jake tightened his grip on the egg. "Then we break every cage we find." The mountain skies were turning black when Jake and Sci-Fi reached the edge of Carl Zeth's domain. It didn't look like a home. It looked like a fortress. Tall metal towers stretched into the sky, each one wrapped in vines and bones, real bones from animals, beasts, even people. Strange machines flew overhead, scanning the jungle below. Security drones hovered near the walls like insects ready to sting. Jake had seen prisons before. He had never seen one this quiet, or this deadly. Dot inside, somewhere, was the last stolen egg, and they had come too far to walk away. Sci-Fi crouched in the shadows, eyes locked on the wall patrols. She whispered, "He keeps living things like trophies. His garden is not for beauties. For display, he kills them slowly." Jake's jaw tightened. He remembered the egg in his pack. The one they saved, warm, alive. But this second egg, if it had been taken by Carl, might not have much time left. Jake checked the scanner. There's one path, South Gate. Guarded, but slow patrols. Sci-Fi nodded. "We move when the lights pass." Minutes later, under cover of night, they ran low to the ground. Fast, taut, a laser beam passed inches from Jake's back as he slid under a fallen pipe. Sci-Fi moved like a shadow beside him, silent and quick. They reached the outer wall. Jake placed a signal disruptor near the gate. It buzzed softly, knocking out the cameras for 15 seconds. "Now," he hissed. They slipped inside the fortress. It was colder, darker. The halls were lined with tanks, cages, and frozen glass walls. Behind one wall, a floating jelly creature blinked slowly, trapped in a tube. In another, a tiger-like beast scratched at the glass until its claws bled. Every display had a tag. Carl Zeth Collection. Jake felt sick. Sci-Fi's eyes burned with rage. "We find the egg," she said. "Then we end him." They followed the corridors to a locked chamber. Jake hacked the door. Sci-Fi stood guard, knife drawn. The door slid open, and there it was, sitting on a silver pedestal. Glowing softly inside a clear energy field was the second egg, perfect, untouched. Still alive, Sci-Fi let out a sound. Not quite a cry, not quite a breath. It was pain, relief, and love, all at once. She reached forward. "Wait," Jake said. He scanned the field. "It's pressure triggered. If we lift it, alarms go off." He checked the timer on his beacon. It could be rigged to disable the field, but it was his last beacon, his only ride off this world. He looked at the egg. Then, at Sci-Fi, no words were needed. He took off the beacon, placed it on the control pad, and activated the override. The energy field shimmered and faded. Sci-Fi stepped forward, lifting the egg into her arms like it was made of gold. She didn't say thank you. She didn't need to dot her tears, said everything. But alarms still blared. Red lights flashed. Loud sirens echoed through the hall. "Go," Jake shouted. They ran. Doors slammed shut behind them. Security bots dropped from the ceiling. Jake shot 2 down, then kicked a panel to block the rest. But Carl was waiting. In the garden, a huge room filled with glowing plants and stone statues. A tall figure stood between them and the exit. Carell. Zeth, his skin was like polished bone. His eyes were silver mirrors. Around his neck hung keys, dozens of them. Each one had belonged to a cage, a prisoner, or a pet. "You broke into my sanctuary," he said, "and stole from my collection." Jake raised his gun. "You stole life. We just took it back." Carl smirked. "You think I'll let you leave?" Sci-Fi stepped forward, cradling the egg. "Try and stop us." Carl drew a long blade from his back. Black as night. Jake stepped in front of Sci-Fi. "Go," he said. "No," she replied. They stood together. Carl moved faster than Jake expected. The sword flashed. Jake blocked with his arm. Sparks flew. Pain shot up his body, but he didn't fall. Sci-Fi lunged, slashing Carl across the chest. He roared. Jake struck again, this time knocking the blade from Carl's hand. Sci-Fi kicked the collector hard, sending him crashing into his own glass display. The tank shattered. The trapped jelly creature inside slipped free. And in that moment, everything broke loose. As Carl screamed, systems failed. Lights exploded. Doors opened by mistake. Every creature in the room, every caged trophy was now free. The fortress turned into chaos. Jake grabbed Sci-Fi's hand. "Run." They escaped through a side tunnel, dodging fire, sparks, and panicked guards. Behind them, the collector's world burned. Outside, under the stars, they collapsed beside a fallen tree. Sci-Fi held both eggs in her arms. Jake's arm was bleeding, but he smiled anyway. "You've got them back," he said. She turned to him, eyes full of tears. "You gave up your beacon," she whispered. "You can't leave this world now." Jake nodded. They needed saving more than I needed a ride home. The jungle was quiet again. Soft rain fell through the trees, dripping onto the mossy ground. The chaos of the black market. The fire in Carol Zeth's fortress, all of it was behind them now. Jake sat beneath a tall glowing tree, his back against the trunk. His shirt was torn, one arm wrapped in cloth. His body ached, but his eyes stayed open. In front of him, Sci-Fi knelt beside the 2 eggs. They glowed softly in the nest she built from vines, cloth, and the remains of her broken ship. Each egg pulsed gently, alive, safe, waiting to hatch. She didn't speak. She only stared. For a long time, she had dreamed of this moment. In nightmares, the eggs were always gone. In her dreams, they were always cold. But now, they were real. Herewith, her. Jake shifted, wincing. Sci-Fi looked at him, then slowly stood. She walked toward him and crouched beside him. She didn't touch him, not yet. She just looked at him like she had never seen a human before. You gave everything. She whispered. Jake gave a tired smile. They were worth it. You don't belong here, she said. You had a way home. You left it behind for me. 4. Your children, he corrected. I just couldn't walk away. Sarai blinked slowly. Then, with great care, she reached up, panned, touched his face. You are no longer just human, she said softly. You are something more. The rain picked up, but it was warm, not cold. The jungle seemed to breathe with them. Sarai returned to the nest and sat between the eggs. Her arms circled them like a blanket. Her eyes stayed fixed on them for hours. Then dash, just as the stars appeared again, one egg shook. Jake sat up. S-E-R-A. I gasped. A crack appeared, tiny, faint, then another. Then light spilled out from the egg's top. As a soft, high-pitched sound rang through the clearing, the first child was hatching. Sarai knelt closer. Her hands trembled. She whispered words in her own language, words Jake didn't understand. But he felt them in his chest. The egg split. A small creature, wet and glowing, slipped out into her hands. It looked like Sarib, softer, smaller. It opened its mouth and let out a weak cry. Sarai held it to her chest. Tears poured down her face. Jake turned away, giving her a moment, but her voice stopped him. Stay, she said. You should see this. He turned back and saw something he would never forget. A mother reunited. A life once stolen, now safe. A love too big for words. Later, when both eggs had hatched, Sarai sat in silence. One child slept in each arm. Jake leaned nearby, watching. Will they survive here? He asked. Sarai nodded. Yes, my kind can live on many worlds, but they'll grow slow without full energy. My ship is gone. I need something more. Jake thought. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out his last power core. It was damaged, cracked from the fight, but it still held energy. He handed it to her. For them, Sarai accepted it like it was gold. You were sent for a reason, she whispered. Maybe the stars chose you. Jake chuckled. Maybe I was just the guy who couldn't ignore a cry for help. Days passed. Sarai's new nest grew stronger. The children learned to crawl. They made soft sounds when Jake spoke, copying his tone. One even tugged his jacket and giggled. Jake smiled every time, but he also knew he had no way home now, and Earth was far, far away. One night, Sarai sat beside him. The stars shined overhead. She said, "We have a custom. When someone gives life to another's family, they become one of us. Not friend, not guest, but family." Jake looked at her. Are you saying? She nodded. I cannot repay you, but I can give you a place. With me, with them. Jake looked at the stars, then at the jungle, then at her, and he nodded. I'll stay.